good, thank you. Give me a second to pull this down. You're almost done. Okay, so we just went over a whole bunch about graphing and collecting data, and I'm just going to take about 2 minutes to ask you, how can we use graphs daily in our classroom? Do you have any ideas or ways that you have used them in your classroom already? Tanisha?
We graph how many people drink healthy snacks every day.
Okay, so every day they graph how many people bring healthy snacks. James?
Well, there's two sides of it. You can use them for educational purposes in the class, but you can also use them for assessment. Like this, for example, when we're going over the pack, the graph gives you a sense of what areas they're struggling in and what areas they're doing really well. And so using that structure to information so you have better.
So as a teacher, you could use them to help you figure out how students did on their assessments. Kelly?
We do a homework graph at the end of the week.
What's the homework graph?
Who turned in homework, who...
Oh, homework. I thought you said a hallmark. Oh, no, sorry. Homework. Sorry, a homework graph. We turned it in and we didn't. And hopefully you see progress in that week by week. Heather, you're going to say something?
You could just graph attendance or the temperature. Whatever daily routines you have, you could record it on the graph.
And if you recorded the temperature every day, what graph do you think would be best to show that? Any idea? Sorry.
Oh, that's a good question. So temperature and what day?
Maybe by the date?
Yeah, and line graph.
Maybe a line graph.
I think both of them will probably end up being line graphs.
Yeah, so you can notice the trends over time. And maybe if you did it throughout the whole entire year, you would actually notice sometimes it's different where we live, but it would get colder during fall and winter and fall. Sometimes our fall is warm, and then it will get warmer as spring and summer comes. Sometimes it's colder in spring here. But maybe if you're in one of those states that really have well-defined seasons, you can really see that trend well.
Along with the trend, you can see time watch, you can do time watch with the weather and do a bar graph of what's most common.
Today was a sunny day here in Cali. Definitely for kindergarten, they do a lot with the weather. Were you going to say something, Callie?
Yeah, we use a giant graph. Our kids go to activities every day and they have a certain amount of choice. But some of the choice is based on how many times they've gone to that choice. So we want them to experience all kinds of things. So we have a giant chart where it's kind of like a tally chart, but by name and by activities. We have all the activities and all the names, and then the kids, I'm surprised at how much they study it, because they want to be able to go to a certain activity and they want to see, well, who else has gone that many times and can I still, and these are only kindergartners, so they actually really use this to help plan what activity they're going to choose that would give them the most likelihood of getting what they want, rather than into an activity that they don't want. So
That's really good.
yeah, it's a really
That's
fun.
very advanced for kindergartners, and that they're informing their decisions based off the data.
Yeah, it really has a lot to do. It really affects them too, so that's why I think
That's very useful to them.
If we vote, we vote randomly. If we vote, I have them take the results at some point during the day and put them into some kind of graph. Usually, at least the beginning of your bar graph, and then we can move into other ones as well.
You're also talking about another graph that you're having.
Oh, well, and for Halloween, yeah. Well, that wasn't daily, so that's what I was going to say.
well,
For Halloween, I'm doing a Skittles activity where they have to first guess how many Skittles they think they have total and guess for each color. Then they have to classify it by color and then bar graph it. And then we're going to compare the results, whole class. So
it's similar, I think, to the bar
from
graph
Halloween, it's
Beyond
impossible to
showed you.
teach.
Exactly, you have to relate it to
Give
kids.
us some candy and they'll at least get something done.
A little focus. Anyone else have any ideas? I was going to write those all down, but I wrote a few of mine down. Maybe you could just have like a graph of the day and you could pose a question of somebody sent homework in the back, Kelly, you sent homework. You could graph how many students did your homework tonight, or how many students did spelling homework compared to math homework. You could say how many hours of sleep did you get last night. You can just pose a really simple question and take down data in the morning or after recess. What activity did you play at recess? How many played kickball? How many jump rope? What else do we have? How many just played in the playground? Just to make a simple graph. I've seen 5th graders, even 2nd graders, have just kind of like a graph. This is a base 10, 100 chart basically. So they count by tens, from 0 to 100, and they graph their percentages that they receive on their test. So this might be the loss for spelling. So if they got spelling tests for, this Friday, and they got a 90%, they color up to 90, and then the next week they got their spelling test and they got 100%, they color the next bar up to 100%, just to let the students know how to track their grades and also graph at the same time. I've seen people do it just for, a lot of times students will have like morning work where you don't necessarily grade it, but you go over it, might be a review of concepts you've already learned. I do that. We only have 4 problems usually, but you could just have basically 4 squares and they could color 4 if they got them all right that day, or 3. And that's easy as a teacher because you could look around at their graphs and see improvement or see if they didn't do well on a specific day and make sure that you could go over with that student the concept that was you're practicing for that day. Culture graphs during the first week of school, I like to try to get to know my students. So the first night they have homework and I send them home and I want them to find out what ethnicity they are, and if they were born in the United States or if they weren't. And then we could they all color in a box on the graph and we make it together, and they learn how to label a graph and kind of look at it and see, whoa, this amount of people are one ethnicity and this amount is another, and how many people were born in the US and how many weren't. So here I actually have 5 students who weren't born in the US, so we get to learn something about each other while we make the graphs at the same time. So that would be a nice intro, to social studies or just the year. So you could always learn something about the students in your class and make a graph with the information you gathered.